everybody. I'm Paul,
And I'm Vanda.
and this is business as usual. Today, Vonda and I haven't connected in a couple weeks, so we're just going to kind of talk about what we've been up to and, you know, what's been our business as usual, what has been, going on in the lives of Vonda and Paul. So, Vonda, why don't you tell the audience a little bit more about your Airbnb business venture?
So I was in Atlanta for a little while, and now I'm back in New York, and then I was in Philadelphia. And the dream is property everywhere, and so far it keeps me in 3 states. But this Airbnb in Philadelphia is really interesting that I've been working on, and
And that's on the west side, right? Born and raised.
right, the Fresh Prince of Bel Air territory. So what's interesting though is how cities and states are clamping down
Hmm.
on business that they are or attempting to control the business of individuals. Airbnb being one of them, or any
Right.
kind of rentals. Apparently, what I'm learning is that I've got to do some rezoning. I have to get a limited lodging license. I have to get a rental license. Like there are all of these stipulations that are being, or maybe they were already in effect, but
Hmm.
now they're being, really scrutinized.
Right.
So I've been jumping through some hoops, not to mention with things going wrong, electricians and plumbers, and I don't know what it is. It seems to be very difficult to find a good contractor. Anybody else having that problem? Finding a good contractor. What happened to contractors with integrity that really are invested and committed to getting the job done, getting a good job done? Well, I have failed in finding those contractors. So if anyone is in the Philadelphia area and would like to make a recommendation, I am absolutely open to it. I have had plumbing redone, the same plumbing, initially all new plumbing put in. I've got somebody right now working in the house redoing a portion of that plumbing because it's not correct. Same
Mm.
thing with electrical. It's just I don't want to say turning into a money pit, but it's becoming very expensive. So, does the Airbnb lodging offset the investment of the upgrades that are necessary? That's a good question. The jury's still out. But yeah, I've been learning about all of the zoning and licensing and what kind of permits are necessary to do business this way. I will say that we started the Airbnb business maybe about 6 months ago,
Hmm.
and none of this was mentioned.
Do you think has it been profitable as far as that goes, or
Um, well, we definitely are recouping. There's no
okay?
profit yet, no way, because we're still having to go in and offer repairs
Hmm.
since the full renovation, or maybe it was a partial renovation, but the partial renovation should have handled heating, electrical, plumbing. And I've had to go back in and redo significant amount of all of those areas. So it's just par for the course. Welcome to property management, real estate. For those of you that want to be owners, choosing contractors, finding out who's the best, referrals. Not going with the cheapest contractor, maybe not the most expensive. I prefer somebody in the middle, but you can't, can you trust a contract that a contractor writes up if you don't know anything about the expertise? I know nothing about electrical, so I
Right.
have to trust what the contractor is telling me. So is it in the scope of work? And if it's not, who's at fault? Because somebody's got to pay. Well, it's been me.
Somebody
So
always
yes,
pays. Yeah.
quite a learning curve. But on the Airbnb tip, it's been doing well. It's been doing well. No, it is not offsetting at this time. However, it is nice to have income coming in monthly to offset the continuance of the repairs that are, that we are discovering need to happen. So, do I see it potentially becoming a value? Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. But this speaks to legacy, you guys. This is an old, an ancestor's home. And, many of us have ancestral property. And maybe we don't want to pick up our lives and move there. So what do we do with it? What do you do with grandma's house? What do you do with great auntie's house? What do you do with the property? So it's a wonderful idea, suggestion. Um, Rentals can cause a lot of damage to your property. I'm a little skeptical about that, especially if there are children. I'm not saying that I don't love them. People are people, but be careful. And that was why I kind of opted out of going for a full on rental right away. I just
Right.
kind of wanted to see and also get an understanding of what needed to happen to the house to really run efficiently. And
Hmm.
so, what a way to learn.
Yeah.
What a way to learn.
Yeah, that's a good point you bring up. Airbnb is a great way to kind of test the rental world, especially if you're new to it, because you can just shut that on and turn it off at will. Whereas with a rental, it's like, okay, they're in a year contract. You have to honor that. Otherwise, you're going to run into some legal issues. So see if the house works for people, and if it does, then maybe go with the full rental so you can build that. Being a rental landlord is a what I would call a semi-passive income. It's not full.
Huge responsibility.
Yes, because people raise their families in them. They literally have to lay their head down somewhere at night, and it's going to be that 1,000 square foot or however big it is uh, home. So I have a my grandparents' home. My dad bought it when my grand was in the nursing home, so she could afford to stay there until she passed. And well, she she sold it for like 85,000 or something. In Altoona, it's not very expensive to live here, although it is being, I guess, gentrified a little bit. So it's a slow progress. But my dad lives there now, and I when he's gone someday, I mean he's 66. When he's gone in 25, 30 years, I don't really want to see that house go because that was my grandparents' home. We played there as kids. There's a huge, like, there's a 50-foot lot next to the house. It used to be a garden, and now it's all just grass. So that's kind of the legacy of the Casserlies. What do we do with that house? Um, so that's something I'm going to have to think about. Do I maybe want to do an Airbnb someday? It's an older brick home. It's so that's something I would think about.
Absolutely. And guess what? It's never too soon to start thinking about that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And because where do those funds come from for repairs? And just like I always say, start putting away for retirement. That's an investment. So start planning for that investment. But you mentioned, or we mentioned legacy, and I'm like, what is wrong with living in a home that has been handed down by family that you don't have to pay a mortgage on? Why
That
don't you want to live there?
Yeah. I mean, especially in this economy.
I mean, think about it, guys. If
Yeah.
we're going to go and buy a house, or we're going to go and rent an apartment or get a condo or something, and that $1,200 a month that you're putting into a 25 or 30-year mortgage, and you have family property, consider taking those that income and renovating the house,
Yeah.
um, so that
Absolutely.
it can go on and on and on. And nobody wanted to take this on in my family. You know what I mean? Nobody wanted the responsibility, or they didn't see the vision. And now I'm kind of like, hey, I'm done. Who wants to pay rent forever? You know,
Vonda's got the
Not
vision.
me. Yeah.
Vonda vision. Yeah, that's we still have to do something with that, but we're getting there. So I guess
I
you want
got
to
a little
know.
something going on.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
a little something going on. I found a nice jingle for the Bond division. I don't know. I keep changing them, but I took some of your coaching.
you did. Okay, good. Well, I guess you'd like to know a little bit about what's going on in my world and Paul's world.
Tell me, tell me, tell me.
Yeah,
I don't
Paul's
know, but I will
World.
say, let me share with everybody that I'm thinking that Paul is looking quite debonair and manly these days. I think it's the beard. You got a little swag going on there, Paul. I like it. I like it. I see it. I like the swag.
Well, thank you. Yes, I actually got a new office here in Altoona, PA. I'm at the Divorce Center for Business Development, and it's $165 a month. It's very cheap. It's like
Very
a multi-tenant suite sort of deal, and it's a 180 square foot office. It's nice. Plenty of room for activities, and so I have a nice big desk and all my equipment, and things are looking up for me. Um, I've
How's business going though? I know that you had been
Yeah,
expanding.
I have an influx of clients, and it's funny, Vonda. Even though the economy is kind of like this with all the crypto stuff and the stocks tanking and some are going up. So it's very volatile right now, in May 2022. But people are looking. It's weird. When I do my sales calls, when I do prospecting for new business, a lot of the business owners I've found are saying, we actually don't we're not advertising for more business because we can't find the help, and we have supply shortages. So I don't know if that's just a cop out or if that's legit. But I know there are supply shortages because of what's going on over in the east, and it's it's crazy.
Interesting.
But the people who have absorbed the business, um, uh, the new ones that are popping up need the help. They need the marketing help. So I've probably gotten 6 new projects for websites. I have a new full managed client. So I'm doing fine. I'm doing great here at Cassis Media, and I actually remember we had talked about offloading work to other people, outsourcing at one point. I have a client over in California, and they wanted to work with a web designer separately. So they went through me for this web designer. So my very first project that I'm actually depending on a young lady for, excellent web designer. I contracted her to do it. So she should be done by June 4th or so with the web design, and we're gonna see how she does. It's really, it makes me nervous giving the work that I've done for 5 plus years.
That's big. That's big.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot of trust involved.
Hmm. But yeah,
And you'll be kind of hands-on in the overseeing and development, I'm sure, area or the
right.
coaching area. So it'll be great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That takes a lot of release,
Yeah.
which is a
It
great
does.
exercise, to learn delegation and clear communication. So good for you.
Thank you. Yeah. So scaling on my end is kind of where I'm at right now, which is good. You ever heard of is it Maslow's hierarchy of needs? You ever hear of that pyramid? Um,
Yes, 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 yes,
yeah.
yes, yes. Is
So I'm past the survival
that
point,
how you're
and
feeling?
yeah, but it's taken years, when you're starting a business, it's not easy, and
Takes years.
but once you have started your first business and you've been successful and you're able to completely support yourself, you've learned so much about doing business that starting the next one is 25 times easier. I could think of 10
That
different
is
businesses I could start now.
that is true. However, the development part and the profit part still takes the same amount of time.
I agree, but you don't go into it
Quite a
so
few
naive.
businesses.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So, and as with any kind of business, marketing has to help you. People don't know if you're doing business if you're not telling them that you do business and what you're selling. So, um,
yeah.
that's what I do.
Well, I too am trying to develop business, so but and folks, I just want you to know that it takes time to do that marketing, to nurture, to prospect.
Hmm.
There are clients that I just I've got a client I'm still working on. It looks like we're going to move forward, but the first conversation was 6 months ago, planting the seed six
Hmm.
months ago. So, if you've got if you're in service or you're in, sales, let's just say, and you're selling something concrete, soaps or some kind of tangible item, it may look a little different. But when you're offering services, you really have to work those leads. You
Hmm.
really have to cultivate those clients. They don't just all come dropping out of the sky and say, "Oh, let's do business." They might dip in and get pricing or just want to know some quotes or want to look at what you've done, and then they're gone. But they might come back, and you've got to keep that communication open. Are you finding that to be true? Because
Oh
yeah.
yeah, yeah, and it's funny because people when you contact somebody, if you're in the service-based business world like I am, um, you well, we both are, I guess, but in my
Yeah.
world, when you contact somebody, you have to identify the problem. And if they don't yet have a problem, but they say, let's talk in a month, because we have something going on, that every client is different. Um, Unless they flat out tell you no, there's still a potential. So people get
Wait,
to,
wait a minute. No, even when they flat out tell you no, a no is not always a no. Don't forget that. A no is not always a no. A no is usually, I look at it as a not right now.
okay, okay. So you can tell I'm not a salesman.
Well, I'm just saying, always go back because circumstances change, business changes, needs change. So, what was a no last November, it's May now. That might not be a no. It may be I've been thinking about it. Let's talk. Let's keep this conversation open because shit changes all the time.
That is very true. Um, I guess I've dealt with people like that. I had a client, and then they say we don't need you anymore, and then 3 months later they come back and say let's work together again. So things do change. You're right. So I've experienced it kind of in arrears, so to speak. Uh,
Hmm.
so okay, all right. Well, thank you for
Yeah.
the tip.
So, a no is not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
It used to really hurt my feelings. Like, oh, I can't, I'm a failure and it's not working and I can't, and it's like, okay, well, I'll keep in touch.
Yeah.
And then you do, and then it becomes a maybe,
Yeah.
right? So once again, though, we have to nurture these relationships because they don't all just drop out of the sky. And if I look at my best clients, they are clients that I've had to nurture for a little while because there's always a trust issue, just like you're outsourcing and there's a trust issue. We're human beings, so trust is always an issue, right?
That is true.
Trust is always an issue. So that's the word for the day. A no is not a no. A no is simply a not right now.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like we should like segment this into, word of the day, and then we just go into
Oh, I
that
like
subject.
it. Or
I
or
don't
the,
know.
the tip of the day, Vanda Vision. No.
Yeah, maybe, maybe.
So, Paul, tell everybody what you do. I don't know. Let's remind them of what we do because we do not do the same thing.
Sure. So I am a digital marketing solutions specialist, and what I do is, and this is how I, piggybacking off of the prospecting concept. Uh, when I reach out to people, I say I'm not trying to sell you anything specific. My goal is to identify a gap in your marketing and see how we can fill it, because we do everything. When I say we, I mean me and my outsourcing team. So if you need like a voiceover, I have a guy for that. If you need video editing, I can do that, or get someone else to do that. We do audio, video, graphic design, email, text marketing, web design, anything that's digital that you see on a screen, we can do it. Um, and we also create designs for like offline print, offline marketing, like billboards and business cards. And so we're basically a one stop shop. We just find the gaps, identify it, and make it happen. So,
I like that. I've been noticing billboards lately. You know, anyone can get a billboard. You just have to contract it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. There's a
but I was in
billboard.
Pennsylvania. They have great billboards in Pennsylvania. They're so savvy and cunning. You know, I'm always really entertained when I'm coming back from Philly, and I'm like, that's a great billboard. Like the messages are really clever.
Yeah,
So I've been noticing.
the big billboard company around here is Lamar, um,
Hmm,
and the guy who owns that company, he's doing very well for himself, as you can imagine. But super nice guy. I've heard. I don't know him personally, but I read a billboard the other day here in town that said, "If you're reading this, billboards work." So it's
yeah,
it's true, and
true.
there's now the electronic ones that are coming out. They're not like the flip
Right.
ones or anything like that. They're now
And
all
they can be
electronic.
altered very quickly. Billboards are not very clever here in New York City. I'll tell you that right off the bat. There's nothing clever. But I found so many clever messages that I like, to the point where I'm like, darn, I need a pen and paper so I can write that down. That's a really great perspective, or I could spin that and use it in my own marketing in some way. Like that's how I'm thinking when
Yeah.
I'm driving and I'm seeing billboards that are clever and really unique. So yeah, I definitely can see that there's a market there. Well, thank you for joining us today here on Business as Usual. I am Vanda, he is Paul, and I am a financial specialist, so a wealth building strategist. I am here to help folks figure out their money now and their money in the future. What's retirement going to look like for you? Have you started planning? Do you have an emergency fund? Are you prepared? What's the plan? How much will it take for you to be 100? How much will you need to get to the age of 100? You know, all of these questions that we all need to know, but nobody wants to ask or talk about. That's me. So feel free at any time. I'm always here and I've got the answers. Anyway, thank you so much, Paul. Thank you all for joining us here on Business as Usual.
All right. Yeah, you guys have a great week. We'll see you next time.